Hello everybody, welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing you a brand new review, and today I'm going to be talking about Is This Thing On?, the comedy drama which releases in America in December and late in January here in the United Kingdom. And I'm going to be giving my thoughts on this film, having seen it at London Film Festival. Of course, it's directed by Bradley Cooper in his third film, and somewhat based off the life of British comedian John Bishop, which I've got quite a bit of a story to tell with that one. So I'm excited to be talking about this film, and as always, I do want to hear from people at home. So if you do watch this film eventually when it releases, or you might have seen it early at the festivals, it premiered at New York Film Festival as well, do let me know your thoughts on this one. But safe to say, as an initial entrance point, this was one of my favourite films of the festival, and I'm excited to be finally talking about it with the reviews. And a massive thank you to everyone new and old that's been watching the London Film Festival reviews. It's been very, very busy recording them. This is the last batch I'm going to record. I've got 3 more to do, including this. I've then got a lot more to edit, shorts to edit, dates to plan, map stuff out. It's been absolutely heaving, so I really do appreciate people's support with this one. That being said, let's talk about this one. The official BFI synopsis of the festival is: Will Arnett and Laura Dern lead a star-studded ensemble in this richly drawn and charming comedy drama about navigating the endless possibilities of midlife. That's an interesting way to stage it, if I'm allowed to say so. Before I give my thoughts from that synopsis on the film, I do want to add, going into this film, I hadn't seen a trailer. I hadn't even premiered at New York yet. I didn't even know this film was in production until London Film Festival did the big schedules, and then it said that this was going to be a film directed by Bradley Cooper. I'm sold on that. I absolutely loved A Star Is Born. I love him as an actor. I wasn't the biggest fan of Maestro, but I didn't mind the directing. It just wasn't a film that worked for me, so I'm still down to see the next Bradley Cooper film. And then when you see the 2 leads of Will Arnett and Laura Dern, and it's been billed as a comedy, I'm sold. I love Will Arnett. I absolutely adore him. Laura Dern the same as well. So I was in for this film. I got to see it on one of, I think, the penultimate day of me at the festival, maybe. Or the last day, I cannot remember. It has been a wild blur, but I loved this. My initial thoughts, if I'm saying so. I thought it was a really interesting story to do, and I guess a bit of important context is I did not know this film was in any way, shape or form based on John Bishop until literally the credits rolled when we were walking out the screening, and everyone seemed to tell me so. I don't know if that will affect anyone else's experience watching it. You wouldn't have known it's about John Bishop, and if you don't know who John Bishop is, he's obviously a Scouse stand-up comedian here in the UK, a very famous one, and this is somewhat based off his life. Obviously, the interesting thing here is that it's set in modern day. The cast are in America, it's set in America, and they are in their midlife compared to, I think John Bishop would have been in his early 20s or mid to late 20s, who knows. So it's very different, and it's fair to say loosely based on. That's a key, because again, I didn't know that. If I'd have known that before, I might have had a different interpretation of the film, but it had no problem with me. I actually quite enjoyed it a little bit more that John Bishop just obviously had a good idea for a story, and they wanted to do something different with it, or maybe he wanted the basis there and things changed. I do not know, but yes, that's some big context, but a really big selling point for me is Bradley Cooper directing this. I thought the direction of this film was great. And I'm just going to sort of jump in with my initial, not only thoughts, but I'm good. Before I talk about the cast, I want to talk about the things that worked for me with the themes of the film. It is a romance comedy, a bit of drama. I mentioned about it being midlife. Essentially, it's following a couple that have split up, and the coping mechanism for Will Arnett's character, the lead, Alex Novak, in this film, is to start doing stand-up comedy, and that becomes his therapy. That's the great selling point that you need for this. I won't try and give too much away on the story, but that sets you on a tone. It's a fascinating insight into, I think, the romance genre, because how many times have we seen a film, and I made a joke coming out to my friends like, well, Laura Dern's been in both Marriage Story films now. This is not like Marriage Story, but somewhat similar. It explores the romance theme, the theme of a separated couple, and doing it in a really fun and unique way. And I kind of want to give Bradley Cooper a lot of credit for that as a director. Yes, there's the real life story where it worked out happily for them at a very different age, but the film could have changed a lot of those things around. It ended up just being a really lovely film to watch. It's people reflecting on their lives. It's people discussing what upsets them about life. Is it the partner, or is it just their life and they have to share that with their partner? So it's got all these great dynamics going down, stuff I haven't really seen in romance films before, and this might not work for everybody, but when I say it did for me, it did to the point that I did cry a couple of times watching it at the cinema. There's a couple of really powerful scenes in this, and I think that's the hook for me. Not that it made me emotional, but I cared for these characters. It does help that I like the actors. I cared for the story, and it was presented in a way that actually felt a lot more real than you do get with a lot of these types of films. So credit to Bradley Cooper's direction. He did a solid job with that. He also is playing a character in this. He's a supporting character, but I'll get to them. So the lead role, Alex Novak, played by Will Arnett, he's superb in this. I don't want to talk Oscars. I always feel weird doing it on these reviews. I know we're heading into Oscar season. We're getting shortlists being drawn up. X, Y, Z should be nominated for A, B, and C. Will Arnett in this film, I'm very safe to say, is probably my favourite performance of his since Arrested Development, and it's really unfair to compare a 2-hour romance comedy drama versus a multi-season TV show. It's also impossible to compare it to a voice role as Lego Batman, which he does a remarkable job in playing that too. But if you want someone that can do heart, that can do comedy, that can do drama, he was absolutely one of the perfect people to cast. And I feel that Will Arnett, as much as a name he is, I don't think he's a household name, and certainly here in the UK he's not as big as maybe he is in the States. And I really liked that casting, that it didn't feel like there was any baggage with him in this film. Maybe baggage is the wrong word, but if you had certain actors in there that have played roles like this many times before, I don't think the film would feel as fresh and as natural. And that's the same for Laura Dern in this. We absolutely love Laura Dern. She has great chemistry with Will Arnett throughout. She's very funny in this, and she's very relatable at times as well. She's playing an ex-volleyball player that has obviously retired, and obviously she's settling down. She's raising their 2 children as well. So what you get with Laura Dern, you kind of know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get a great performance from her. But again, it's maybe because I haven't seen too many of her films aside from the obvious main ones. I haven't seen her play too many comedy romance leads, and I just think the pairing of her and Will Arnett sold the film for me. It made the film work. I'm not saying I couldn't imagine other actors doing this. There probably could have been other actors in these roles, but there was something about this that made it work so much better that they did go for people who are middle-aged, who I haven't seen in films together, and I think that just adds to the somewhat realism that this film has with it being based off that real story. And then I also need to talk about Bradley Cooper performance-wise. He is playing essentially their couple best friend. He plays the character Balls. Genuinely, he's called Balls. And his partner, his wife, is Andra Day, who's playing the role of Christine. These two have a lot of the comic relief. Even though it's a film that covers stand-up comedy, there's a lot of comedians with cameos in this. Bradley Cooper's the funniest person in this film. It's like he got to give himself the best possible role, from making one of the funniest entrances of the year to making the whole auditorium laugh, to ending up being one of the sort of pillars of moral support throughout. He's great in this, and you know you're going to get a great performance out of Bradley Cooper too, but there was just something about it, the fact he directed it, the fact he was able to play a smaller role. Absolutely loved this. I think it's my favourite of Bradley Cooper's 3 films. I know it's early days. I've seen this once. I want to see it again when it releases here. I know the BFI is going to do previews in December. That's been announced today at the time of recording. If anyone is interested in that, it will be shown a little bit earlier here at some places. But yeah, for me, this film works so well. And I kind of want to sit here and ask what didn't work, because I've been very glowing on this, and it is tricky when you're in the festival run. You're seeing a lot of films. The quality of films tends to be a lot higher. So I tend to enjoy the films more, and the films do tend to be better than if I was going to watch 14 outside the year, especially when I've selectively done some of these. If you're a big fan of John Bishop and you know the real life story, and if you go into this film expecting John Bishop's story to be done, you may be disappointed, because obviously it isn't about John Bishop. It's a different age, it's a different country, let alone city, different performers. So that's why I'm trying to say your experience might be dependent on your knowledge of John Bishop. Didn't have a problem for me, but as I said, I didn't find out he was involved until afterwards. I'm not itching to have had a course correction. I think it really did work for it being loosely based upon his life, but maybe a diehard John Bishop fan might be a little bit disappointed. I do not know. He's obviously been involved. I think he co-wrote it as well as doing the story, I've got to add, but for me, yes, this is one of my favourite films. I say of the year, I do my rankings on the UK calendar, so I guess I can say I've already seen a favourite from the start of 2026. But yeah, I'm recommending this film to go to see at the cinema. If you're in America, you're based in the States, you're going to be very lucky you get to see this in December time. If you're in the UK, it's going to be January the 30th, a bit more of a wait. It's the traditional, how would you say it, BAFTA Oscar qualifying runs. And if I do talk about this ceremony, I'm not going to sit here anticipating this could get an honor for A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I doubt Will Arnett would get an Oscar nomination, but if he did, that would be like my beautiful surprise of the year. That would be like a victory within itself. Although I have a very strong sense that this film could do very well at the Golden Globes, with it correctly being put in the comedy musical area. Obviously, Wicked's probably going to dominate the musical side of that, but I think this will do well. I think this will play well with audiences. I think audiences will have a great time seeing it. I think everyone will have a different experience based upon their own relationships, their own life. The meanings that this film has as it gets into the latter parts. It connected to me. It connected to me in a way I didn't think it would or could. And for that, I'm recommending this film. Go see this at the cinemas. That is my official recommendation for this film. When you get the chance, when it is out, go and see it. Take your friends. You're going to have a laugh. It's going to be eye-opening. And then take your enjoyment from there. So that is me rounding out this review. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've got 2 more London Film Festival reviews to do. Next up is going to be Saipan, which is the football comedy drama. I can't wait to talk about that. That's going to be very different to talk about. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you then.